everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I'd show you what I eat in a day as a vegan food blogger. Of course, no 2 days are ever exactly the same, but here's what I ate on this very particular day. I love to start my day with either a glass of hot water or a cup of tea. Usually I like to have black tea in the morning, but on this particular day I just kind of felt fancy and wanted to treat myself to one of my favorite teas, which is green tea with rice, or also called genmaicha. For breakfast this morning, I decided to have a baked breakfast crumble, which has been one of my favorite morning treats this winter. You can find the recipe for this breakfast crumble up on my website, though on this morning I made a slight variation of my breakfast crumble, and instead of using dates, I just used a very ripe banana that I needed to use up. To start with, I peeled 1 banana and 2 apples, and then I cut the apples into small chunks. I put the chunks aside into a baking tray, and then I added the banana into a food processor. I added about a tablespoon of peanut butter and then blended until smooth. And then very quickly realized that I needed a little bit of water in order for it to blend smooth, so I added that in. I then added in about 2 tablespoons of oats, and then I just pulsed the blender until they were combined. I added about 5 more tablespoons of oats and then stirred through with a spoon. You should get a firm but sticky mixture. If it's a little bit too dry, just add a tiny bit more water, and if you've overdone it on the water, then simply add in a few more oats. I then added some raisins to my apples. This is of course completely optional. I'm normally one of those people that really don't like raisins, but for some reason I absolutely don't mind them in apple crumble. I added the juice of half a lemon and then crumbled the oat mixture on top until evenly coated. I then transferred everything over to the oven for about half an hour at 160 degrees Celsius. And in the meantime, I already started on my emails and I enjoyed my cup of tea. If you don't have the time in the morning to prepare this kind of breakfast, you can always easily prepare it the night before and then pop it in the fridge overnight and simply reheat it. On this morning, I enjoyed my breakfast crumble with some unsweetened soy yogurt, and I also sprinkled some cinnamon on top. This recipe makes for 2 portions, by the way, so simply let your oven dish cool down, pop some foil on the top, and then just put it in the fridge overnight. And the next morning, simply pop it into your preheated oven for about 5 to 10 minutes and you're good to go. I've recently been trying to increase my water intake. When you're working from home, it's just so easy to forget to drink enough. But I feel that it's been helping me to just fill up an entire bottle of water and pop it next to my desk so that I simply can't forget. It's also been helping me to remember to take my supplements. At the moment I'm taking this calcium and magnesium combination, but I'm not entirely sure if these ones are vegan. It's just a package that my mom has left behind in our flat, and as she only visits us about once a year, I didn't want them to go to waste, so I'm just using them up. In addition, I'm also taking a vitamin D supplement, which is very important for your body to absorb calcium properly. For the past 2 months, I've also been taking this vegan hair gain supplement in addition, which is like a mixture of multiple nutrients. I've been having some hair loss since earlier this year, so I kind of thought I'm gonna try this out. And I really feel that it's helping because my nails have also become so much stronger since I started taking this. I'm gonna try and find it online and link it in the description for you guys. Usually halfway through the morning, I like to top up with another tea, and this time I went for a black tea. I've recently also been loving listening to podcasts while I work, and Potterless has been one of my favorites. On this day, I decided to make a Buddha bowl for lunch. So I first measured out 1 part rice, and then I washed the rice with my hands. This helps to remove any outer shells from the rice and ensures that my rice becomes nice and fluffy when I cook it. I rinsed the rice about 2 or 3 times, and then drain the excess water. I then measure out 2 parts of boiling water from my kettle and add them to the rice. As you can see, I've used the same size glass to measure my rice and the water as well. I then set the stovetop to the highest temperature and covered with a lid. And then waited for everything to boil before I reduced the heat to a minimum. Keep the lid on as the rice will cook underneath and it will become nice and fluffy with this method. In the meantime, I cut a block of tofu into small chunks and added everything to a baking tray along with a splash of oil and a little bit of salt. I transferred everything to the oven until golden, and in the meantime started chopping my veggies such as broccoli, cucumber, spring onion, and half an avocado, which is technically a fruit. I also drained a tin of chickpeas, cut some tomatoes, And when the rice was nearly done, I added in the broccoli to steam. Oh, and I also defrosted some edamame beans. I decided to make a peanut sauce for my Buddha bowl. So I added 2 teaspoons of smooth peanut butter and a drizzle of toasted sesame oil to a bowl. Then added in about a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and the juice of half a lemon, before adding a splash of water and whisking it all into a smooth sauce. And then it was time to assemble. I first added the rice to my bowl, then the steamed broccoli, a handful of chickpeas, cucumber, the tomatoes, and the avocado. I then removed the tofu from the oven and dropped a couple of cubes into my peanut sauce, and the rest of the tofu I was going to use for my dinner that day. I finished everything off with a good drizzle of the peanut sauce, and yeah, here was my Buddha bowl lunch. Oh, and not to forget the spring onions and also some sesame seeds. And I almost forgot the edamame beans. I had quite a bit of rice and also steamed broccoli left over, so that was the perfect excuse to have another Buddha bowl on the next day. I always like to have my lunch away from the laptop, so on this day I was just watching an episode of Gilmore Girls whilst munching away. I turned off my laptop when Nick came home in the evening and decided to make some curry soup for dinner. I like making my own curry paste, and for this I first added about a tablespoon of coconut oil to a pan, then chopped 3 cloves of garlic, a 5cm piece of ginger, and then added both to the pan, together with some cayenne pepper. I'm intolerant to chili, so I like making my meals spicy with cayenne instead. I also added half a teaspoon of coriander seeds, 3 cardamom pods, and some cumin, and then let everything become nice and fragrant for about 5 minutes. I then added in about a teaspoon of turmeric powder, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, about 2 tablespoons of shredded coconut, mixed everything for about a minute before adding in about 2 tablespoons of ground almonds or almond flour. I combined everything, removed the cardamom pods, and then blended everything into a smooth paste. Transfer the paste into a clean jar and it will keep in the fridge for at least 10 days. For the soup, I used about 2 teaspoons of the curry paste and added it to a saucepan, along with a splash of oil and a little more turmeric. I gently broke it down and then added a splash of water. Next, I added in a teaspoon of stock powder, a little more water, and then some frozen butternut squash from my freezer. I let everything simmer, then added a can of coconut milk and transferred everything to my blender in order to make a smooth soup. Back in the saucepan, I let everything simmer for another 5 minutes before serving. I added in some leftover tofu from lunch, a little bit of unsweetened yogurt, and topped with some parsley and some sunflower seeds. So this is what I ate on this particular day as a vegan food blogger. Make sure to subscribe to not miss out on any of my future videos, and I'll see you in the next one.